today we're at Howard Hanna Real Estate, and I have two very important guests. Let's start with you, Hoby Hanna. You are the president and the CEO of Howard Hanna Real Estate. And then we have our own Matterport Chief Revenue Officer, Jay Remley. And Jay traveled from Dallas, Texas today. I just came from Fort Lauderdale, so here we are from three different parts of the country.
So you came here for the colder weather.
Yes,
that is for sure.
It was 106 today in Dallas.
Yeah,
so.
it's only 85 here
exactly.
today. So, it'll snow next week. But,
very pleasant morning, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I would like to start with your brand, Hoby, because you have the oldest brand as a family-owned company. You were born in 1956, not you, but your brand, by your grandfather.
Yes.
In 1957, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it was growing to be successful, strong, with absolutely stunning reputation. So how did you grow the brand, and how do you separate yourself from others, and your success story?
That's a great question. And Lucy, thanks for being here today. And thank you. And just excited to learn more about what's going on at Matterport and VHT, as well as talk a little bit about Howard Hanna. We are, like you said, my grandparents started the company in 1957. It's Howard Hanna Real Estate because that was my grandfather's name. It is my given name too. But I always like to tell the story, sort of maybe encapsulates about the family, is that he started the company in Pittsburgh in an area called Shadyside, which is a nice neighborhood right by an area called Oakland where the University of Pittsburgh is. And he really wanted to call the company Shadyside Real Estate because he believed real estate's very local and the people locally. But he didn't have the $35 to file the fictitious name at the time. So his accountant said, well, just call it after yourself. And that was not his personality. It was like, maybe my ego would be that way, but not my grandfather's. And so it became Howard Hanna Real Estate and tied to the family. I tell that story because as we've grown, it would really be a hard sales pitch to say, especially through acquisition and going to other markets, you're now working for Shadyside Realty. I'm not sure that would play. But that, I mentioned that, I always like to tell that story to people who join us and others. One, it sort of shows that my grandfather had this family humbleness of like, okay, watch your dollars. Do you really need to spend that? Where does it happen? Because we've got to be long-term. But secondly, once he did name the business after himself, and then it's my father's name, it's my name, I have a son who has the same name, that name in the family is so important that it guides everything we do because it is a family business. We have to stand behind the values of our company and everything else. And I was saying that I think the fact that the name of our business is a family name, and there are now. There's three of us alive today that carry the name Howard Hanna, and although we all have nicknames, but it's also the family name of everybody, that Hanna name, and there's a pride that even with family members that aren't in the business, say, are you doing the right thing with the family brand? Are we doing the right thing? Are we living the mission of the company? Are we taking the values that were started by my grandparents and still continuing them into a third generation, and with my cousins and my brother and my sisters and everybody that in this generation. And I think you asked about the little bit of the history of the company and we've grown. I think that we live that mission of family, hands-on, knowing our employees, our agents, our managers, and we refer to them all the time as the family. We refer to, you're part of the family, and we mean that. And I think it's just as important. I think that does differentiate us. It's harder as we grow.
Yeah.
But it definitely is something that we try to instill in our leadership team and our management team and department heads, that it's not enough to look at somebody as like, oh, how many sales did you have? Or how many mortgages did you write? Or what were your KPIs this month? It's like people have lives. We're sitting here, I've got one call that could come in with a family thing and I have to answer that, but I would fully anticipate and expect any of my employees, if they walked in and the first thing I say to them is, how was your weekend? How's your family? How are your kids? How's your mom or your dad, or whatever issues are going on? And if they feel free, they can say, they're great, but I have a little something. And if I have to step out, do you mind? I'm never going to mind.
Yeah.
And I think that goes deeper into just how we treat the clients and customers. So
Yeah.
that's been instilled by my grandparents, and they're no longer here with us, but we try to carry that on and carry that message.
And I would like to note that companies that you connect yourself with, that now you are partners with, they're also family. Every single one of them is a family business, so they value what you have to offer.
I think so. I mean, we've been very fortunate as we've grown up in this business and seen the changes since the 50s. We've grown strategically through mergers and acquisitions into new markets. And you're right, the commonality, people always say, well, why did you pick, you started in Pittsburgh, why did you pick Cleveland? Why did you pick Detroit? Why did you pick Virginia Beach?
Yeah.
And it was not all contiguous. And why not go to Florida or Texas or some of the hot markets or the sand states? And it was all relationship. Every merger we went into over the years, really since 2003, big cities or small, have been people we grew up in the business with, that were family businesses, that we had a lot in common with. And I think they trusted that the values they had would be entrusted to us and we would carry on. And not do away with their history, but add and enhance only what we're doing because it meshed.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of that original growth through what you would call the true acquisitions of a company, and the owners then leaving and maybe some of their kids staying in the business or not. There wasn't a succession. What we found recently, which has worked for us for the last 5 years, is as we grew, it was a challenge finding that owner mentality when you do acquire. Very entrepreneurial businesses where I always say that the companies almost had a cult of personality leadership.
Yeah.
And so, we found a new strategy where instead of just buying out a company and then the leadership disappears, we said, well, could we partner with you? Could we come in? And we've made stakes as majority partners, but made stakes and then asked whether it was next generation family or existing leadership to stay as our partner and grow with us and run the business and run in collaboration and shared ideas. I don't think we could do that if it was really just a corporate business with none of that cultural aspect, none of that family-based aspect. It might not mesh as well.
Right.
And so we've been very fortunate to find some great partners. And right now we have what we call 4 of those partner companies, which would be the Allen Tate Company in Charlotte, which was the first, and throughout the Carolinas, and the Tate family and Pat Riley, and now Gary Scott being very involved.
And they're still very involved.
They're very involved. They're partners of ours, and and we knew Gary's family, his father's business, B. Gary Scott in Delaware. My dad was good friends with Gary, so when Gary came down to work for us from Long and Foster, after a couple of years, we brought him in as a partner because we wanted that continuity. So it's great to have Gary there. The Rand family in New York, they came to us looking for a traditional exit. Some of the brothers wanted to exit, some didn't, and mom was trying to make. And I remember sitting in New York City and having lunch, and I said, well, would you ever think about doing it this way? And they're like, wait, we could still be partners and involved. And they've been some of the best partners we've ever had. Just Matt Rand has been nothing but super, just really helping us grow. And Joe's great with the energy he brings.
And Marsha's still involved.
And Marsha's involved, yes. And not as much as she is, but she comes to board meetings and keeps us all in line. And Dan, their younger brother, is involved with our mortgage company. So it's great. And then we also, the FC Tucker Company, which is somebody else we grew up with in Indianapolis, Jim Litton, was looking for a strategic change. And so Jim stayed in, but he brought in his 2 key senior people, Pat Perdue and Donna Krebs, and he actually brought them in as partners when he did restructure. And so they're operating. And then most recently was with Coach Realtors and the La Costa Finn family. And that's been, and I've been friends with LP and Whitney for years, just industry friends, and it's been great working with them, and they've got such a great operation.
And you are also so involved with them in leading real estate companies of the world.
Yes.
Actually, with all of them, everyone you just mentioned.
It's been a commonality, and then there's companies we've said we'd like you to be partners, and they haven't. But the Beverly Hanks Company in Asheville, another leading RE broker, we bought them through the Allen Tate, and we wanted the Hanks family to be partners, and they were offered that, and they said, no, but we don't want to be necessarily financial partners, but we want to stay in. And so Neil that might be the best market we're in right now. Neil's just hard charging, nothing's changed. He's doing a great job. And Amy, his wife, is running our mortgage operation there. So it's all family, and it's the closeness, and just, it's been nothing but wonderful. We've been very fortunate.
So the foundation is the same.
Yes, it is. It is.
Well, you talked about, pretty similar, you talked about family values and the partnerships and whatnot. It's actually how we came to acquire VHT. They were one of our customers and partners, and we knew we needed to get closer to the customer because just the relationships matter, especially in real estate. And so as we were talking through similar conversations with Brian, in VHT, to say, hey, what would it look like if instead of you being a customer of ours, you actually joined the Matterport family? And that was just over a year ago, actually, July of last year.
July of last year, and we're still very much involved in the business.
Yeah. So you talked about the values, which that one hit home for me. We talk about the 3 dimensions of Matterport being a 3D company, which is be a leader, be inclusive. None of us have all the answers. Let's make sure we get the best data points, and then be the customer. And obviously, you being in business as long as you've been around since your grandfather, don't get to where you are either without kind of living and being successful with, your customers. What can you share as far as your learnings with Howard Hanna and how you've kind of lived through the customer and do success through the customer, work success with the customer?
Yeah, I think, the industry's changed, obviously, right? And as I've grown up, I find the brokerage side of the business very interesting. We're always trying to put labels on what kind of brokerage you are. Are you a consumer-centric company? Well, are you a broker-centric company? Are you an agent-centric company? And those 2 terms, that agent and broker-centric, used to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
It was very popular in the early 2000s, and everybody was being identified as one or the other. And we used to always get lumped into, as I think most independent brokerage firms that were entrepreneurial that have grown in the country, not even besides ones we've done business with, but even like the Barrett and Warners and the Ravis Company and people, Sibsey Klein, people we really admire and are friends with. All of us got lumped in at one point in time in the mid-2000s as broker-centric. And I looked that up and it drove me crazy because I was like, the agent-centric companies were some of the new models. The agent-centric companies were models that came along and chose to maybe be higher paid commission companies. Well, we still pay out pretty fairly.
Yeah.
That everybody pays, or you got to operate a certain way, no matter where the split is or fees or however you run it. And I used to say, well, how am I only thinking about myself? That was the case. The broker only thinks about themselves. And I was like, we get up every day. I remember in the early mid 2000s, we started coming out in the company and saying, well, we think we're all of those.
Yeah.
We think that, but most importantly, we're consumer centric.
Yeah.
Because the customer, at the end of the day, I found that if we are being innovative, creative, attentive, focused on the customer needs, because that's who's paying us, right? And if we're making the right decisions, the right marketing support, the right technology, the right disruption that's needed in the business at times, and we are always thinking, does it benefit our customers? And we weigh that, because if the people who are paying us the fee, if they're happy, the internal customer, the agent, is going to be happy. And if the external customer is happy and they keep using us, and the internal customer is happy, which is the realtor, the agent, then as the broker, we're happy. And so it's like this, we show to our whole team, it's our organizational structure is the inverted pyramid. And I know a lot of people use that, but we put, the salespeople at the top line who are facing the customer, it's the family and the ownership at the bottom.
Yeah.
And
serving that.
And serving that and serving it all the way through. So we do sometimes ruffle feathers where we're making decisions that somebody might say, well, is that in the best interest of my model or how my agents are served? We're always like, no, did it work for the buyer and seller?
Yeah.
Do they come back to us?
For the final consumer.
Yeah. And most of our markets, as we've grown, we've gone into some great growth markets, like the Carolinas and parts of New York. But, we've grown up in markets like Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Michigan and Youngstown, Ohio, and Erie, Pennsylvania. I mean, our roots are in markets regionally that we didn't have huge population increases. We didn't have huge growth, development. So we had to create customers for life. And I think if you look at our market shares in some of those areas, they're pretty significant. And I think it's because customers do choose us, and our agents stay with us for a long time, and our management team stays with us. So there's a lot of consistency. Yeah. And somebody might have a flash in the pan, but I think if you look at us, at least over the last 20 years, and just looked at our record, we're pretty consistent, and we do a nice job, and we get the results we want. So
if you grew more through market share growth versus the market necessarily growing.
Yes.
Like in Pittsburgh area and so forth. Yeah.
I think we've had to be. I mean, it's one of our most unique programs that still is a marketing program today that makes a lot of sense, that is our 100% money back guarantee, where we'll stand behind, and we take it to every market we're in, but we'll stand behind the value of the home. So if a homeowner buys their house from Howard Hanna, one of our listings, and they're not happy in the first year in the house for any reason whatsoever, we'll buy the house back from them.
Wow.
Really?
Really?
And
That is a risky business.
well, you think it's even riskier, the fact that the program was developed in 1982 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where they used to produce this hard metal surface called steel.
Yeah.
That
crashed.
that
about
disappeared.
time, Yeah.
Okay. Gulf Oil said, we're leaving.
Yeah.
You know, the housing market, interest rates in the teens, and somehow my dad and my aunts had the nerve to say, you know, we still believe in Pittsburgh. So if you list your house with us, or you buy a house with us, we'll buy it back from you if you leave. And so that early 80s programs, like in our DNA. So you go back to 2009, when my first real financial crisis that I saw, you know, we were the whole housing market, and I'm leading a team, and we had just rolled in and acquired our largest competitor here in Cleveland. And if you think we did that in November of 2008. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Right.
The world's going to hell in a handbasket,
Right.
the mortgage industry. And in February of that year, we came out with a program, which was and everybody's worried about losing their job. We had our job loss mortgage. That if you lost your job, you bought a house with us and did the financing with our mortgage company. If you lost your job, we'd pay 120 days of your mortgage payment.
Very
And
generous.
It was a risk.
Yeah.
We said, you know, you can't just run when times are good. You've got to be innovative when times are challenging, and be able to overcome objections and give confidence to people.
Yeah.
And and I think so. That's where I say we're consumer-centric, and our agents still talk about some of those programs. They talk about the risk that we're willing to take.
Yeah.
Or as recent as March of 2020, we have a program we call Income Advantage that we've had for years, which is we offer our agents a draw against their commissions. And they have to sign up annually in February. February 15th is when they sign up. And we have some agents that take it every year, some who say, I don't need a draw, I'm good. And we have some who use it just for marketing. They're betting against themselves.
Yeah.
They set on a formula. But February, that's like you sign up and we're done and we've got it in the books. Well, late March, if you think about March 2020, even though the market turned out to be great, we didn't know when we were going back to work.
Yeah, I know. Same
And we
here.
had independent contractor real estate agents saying, how am I going to provide for my family?
Yeah.
And so the first thing we did is we came out in March and said, we're extending the roll-in period for Income Advantage up until April 15th. You can roll in. And we didn't know if we were going to be paying people like
Out of your
thousands
own
of
pocket.
dollars. Well, and we did. People, and so we have these, when we do that, that was the benefit, not to us as the broker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't broker-centric. That was agent-centric.
Agent-centric.
But it was also to give them confidence to say, I got to take care of my clients still.
Yeah.
To say I might not get a closing. And places like Michigan made real estate non-essential, in New York State, so you couldn't even show houses.
Right.
But we said we got to take care of the family.
Yeah.
And if that means we do a little bit less, we take care of more. So when we do those unique programs that we think are benefiting, whether it's the customer, whether it's the agent, whether it's not for us.
You're right.
And I think people miss that in our industry. And I think there's been a lot of companies that come out and say, oh, we're for the agent.
Yeah. Those are great examples. I tell the team all the time that be the customer, meaning the customer is the ultimate boss, to your point. They can decide to fire us anytime they want and take their business elsewhere. And so if we don't solve their pain point, they'll go find someone else to solve that pain point. Yeah. But those are great ones. I didn't know about your program as far as the buyback after a year.
I don't think anyone else has a program like that.
No, we've had it for a long time, and we tell people about it. And even when we've done some mergers or partnerships, it's one of the first things we bring to the table. And our partners are like, they've known about it, and they're like, well, is this too risky? And I go, well, it's risky, but it's calculated, and it's
working, obviously.
And it works, and it says to the, I still think the key to the business is the seller.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of debate in our industry right now, and I think it's great. But I think today the one place where you sit at a kitchen table and say to somebody, trust me, I might be a stranger. You may not know me that well, but I'm going to take your largest asset and help you get it sold. Mm-hmm. And they sign a contract with a time and a period. So even some of those programs are to say, and we're going to stand behind the value of your house to this buyer. There's no extra cost to you. we're going to stand behind this value so that when somebody says, is this house worth it, we can say, we believe it is, so much so that we'll stand behind the value to 100% of the purchase price. Or when we did the job loss mortgage, well, why would somebody put their risk out there? Because we had to say to that homeowner, it's not just reduce the price of your house.
Yeah.
Can we do this?
Yeah.
You know, so that became, you know, part of the strategy.
Well, those were two huge pain points, especially at that point in time.
Yeah.
You know, when you launched those, whether it was income protection in 2008 or, you know, the crazy interest rates back in the early 80s, you know, mid 80s. So
that is definitely different you from everybody else, from all your competition. And I think what else so unique about your company, your office managers and regional managers also have the ability and the right to run every office as their own business. And I think that's amazing too. So you are given a full freedom. Treat it as your own business. And that's what Matterport tells us a lot as well when we are meeting on Accelerate. Use it, treat it as your own business. Feel it with your heart and do what you can do to make the business better.
Yeah.
And that's what Howard Hanna is doing also. Your leadership is amazing because you give them freedom to be leaders.
We really tried to. I think that's, we want them to act as owners.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and I think we try to instill that. Our organizational structure has, as markets grow, we have a market president, we have a regional management team, we have managers. And I know that's, I always say, in our industry today, it's become the challenge. Is you look at a lot of companies and they're like, well, we don't need that mid-level management. We don't need that level. You strip out. And I think that it's one of the secret sauces of our organization per se, is that not just having people in a role, but we're always trying to develop them all the way down to that branch manager. Run this like you own the business, not just that you're a hired gun CEO, but that you own this branch. Think like an owner.
Yeah.
Alicia, who you met earlier, who's our president in Ohio, we ask her to run this whole market as if she owns it. I want her to be angry and frustrated when things aren't going right. And I want her to be excited and celebrate when things are going well. And I want her to challenge what we've been doing and come back and say, well, it's not just my job, I want, and we reward that way. We reward through, you know, sort of profit sharings and really incentives that are based upon growth.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you have that ties in culturally.
Yeah.
Because that's how, you know, we've got this big family, and I always say, okay, I have a title, but it's still a family business. It's, you know, we put these different titles, but we're all making collective decisions together, and we're thinking like owners. So if we're thinking like owners and we don't have our management team and everybody else helping make those decisions, then it just all becomes top down.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing we've cultivated. My grandfather did, my aunts and my father did, and now my generation, is that we want people to not just look at this as a job. We want them to express, this is a mistake. You're wrong, Hoby. Speak up.
Yeah.
Tell me it's good to tell me I'm right, but when I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong and tell me why you just feel that this isn't, and so we try to really cultivate that aspect, which I'm not sure everybody does.
Kind of your upside down pyramid.
Right.
It
is.
Yeah, and our CEO, R.J. Pittman, he says the same thing. You have to care about what you do. You have to love what you do, care about what you do, and speak up. Because if you don't let me know what's going wrong and why you're unhappy, I will never be able to help the company. Not just you personally, but the company. And you support that theory as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. I think in real estate it's even more important, right? Because it's so hyper-local that if you give the local folks that accountability and ownership, not only do they know the market probably better than anybody else, no matter where you are in the organization, they also feel accountable for the results. And when the results don't happen, that's when you personally, are passionate. If you're passionate about what you do, you don't necessarily feel good either until you get it right.
Yeah.
So.
And we don't get it right all the time. And I would say that, but if I reflect and say, why aren't we having more growth in one market than another? It's either that we're not, and I put that on myself, either I'm not doing enough for that management team or leadership team in a market to feel that sense of ownership, to feel that sense of pride. And are we not, and I always challenge, are we not allowing them to speak up? Or are we, we just saying, well, this is how we do it here, so you have to do it this way everywhere, which can be a kiss of death.
Yeah.
Or sometimes sometimes the minds that are thinking about are right. It's just, let's talk about how do we make sure you understand the value concept and listen to the objection, but put it together. So, but as your CEO says, if you don't love what you're doing, Don't do it. I mean, we have a line that I think I stole from Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers coach.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Which is, we don't need hostages. Nobody has to be here. Don't be a hostage. So if you want to be in this organization, we want you here, and we'll find a way to grow and speak up and say, hey, I'm not happy doing this, because we'll find something else for you to do. But if you're acting like you're just held hostage and this is just a job, you're never going to excel. And you're not going to fit into the right atmosphere.
Probably in the wrong spot.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, technology's played a pretty big role in real estate throughout the years. I mean, everything. I remember Brian at VHT telling the story, before 2D photography was really mainstream, and now we're moving into kind of, 3D technology and mobile technology, and there's technology coming from every angle, coming at the agents and brokers and whatnot. How do you see kind of the technology helping, assisting through the transaction, or helping the agents and brokers, today versus say going forward? Where do you see it happening?
Yeah, I mean, I started my career in 1994 as a real estate agent, and it's amazing. It's been a long time, getting old, but it's amazing how much technology's enhanced. I remember the first office I managed that the agents were begging me to get a digital camera. And I was like, I can't afford it. I had like 5 agents in my office with a really small digital camera. Keep using your Polaroid. And stick the Polaroid on a piece of paper. Or if you're really a nice house, you go get the photography, the film printed, and you stuck it on a piece of paper and put it in a copy machine, and that was your handout.
Right.
And if you're a really nice house, you got it in color. Or it's just black. I mean, we've come so far, and then digital cameras, and you saw in the advent of how the MLS is enhanced, and you're right, 2D photography. Just looking at the internet and the involvement that's come there, and everything, transactional management platforms. I think that we're still all looking for that holy grail, but there's so much that I've seen is improved, and I would say most of it has I think made agents more efficient, the business more efficient. Sometimes I worry it's made it less personal, I still think the realtor being at the core of the transaction is really important, because it's a relationship business, and so you can look at all the ideas and concepts along the way that said we don't need realtors, we'll cut that out of the business. I'm not there on that, but I do think so many things have evolved, and it's been exciting. We've always tried to look at technology as maybe we don't have to be the first adopter, but really study it and say, is this making an impact with our sales associates? Is this making an impact to the customer? Going back to that customer side, adopting it, and when we find something, really integrating it into the core culture of our system and framework of our system. And like we've looked at that, we didn't want to become a technology company. So we've never really invested in terms of our own software development and proprietary. But what we did discover is there's so many great companies out there, that technology companies around financial services and real estate, that they are investing, and to be a customer of theirs, and along the way, in some cases, we become partners. So we sort of created our own investment vehicle that has invested in different technologies that we've seen that we've had great adoption and we've used, and they've come to play. And like, for example, we're a partner in MoxieWorks. And have been for years, where we just became an investor in Percy, buy-sides product, which our agents use a lot of, and we saw it and we said, can we invest there? We invested in a lead management company years ago called One Cavo, and then that we bought. That is one private company we do have that we bought out the balance of the partners, and that's just a great, it's the Howard Hanna version of Op City. I don't want to say the poor man's version, but it is. It's like we maybe could put more into that, but it's the same concept. It's a call center basis. That's you're talking to that client and lead generation. So we and there's a couple others that we put side deals in that we think are good for the industry, that we think can grow. So that's been our look at technology and taking and using it to evolve much more and testing it in different capacities, because I think it's great, and I think some of the ideas, we had a meeting this morning, some of the ideas that could be there to just make the transaction much more efficient, make the consumer experience even better, that I think is coming down the path with so much that's out there now, even what you're all doing, is exciting. I think it really is exciting that experience for the consumer 10 years from now, I think it'll be an easier process, it'll be a streamlined process, but I think it'll still have that, no matter AI or anything else, will still have that agent in the middle of it, sort of with that reaffirming this is a good deal for you.
And you are also very innovative. For example, in my conversation with Alicia, she mentioned your virtual office website that is revolutionized industry here, made a lot of people upset. Just a few words about that, because that is very different approach, and I think you are the only company who is doing that.
Yeah, I didn't think it would create such a stir in the industry, but maybe I undervalued it. So I've never been a huge fan of IDX. I mean, it is what we have in the industry.
Yeah.
And we've used it and been, I guess you could say, a beneficiary of it. But I remember even in the early 2000s when the concept was coming around that, okay, well, if you're going to share digitally, and I understand the MLS became the provider and how do you pick and choose, but if you're going to share digitally, we're now going to say that it's an all or nothing, and here's where you can place your listings. And I never got it. The concept was that's best for the consumer because they can find everywhere. I'm not really sure it is. I don't know how diluting the value of a home, of a listing, and putting on every thousands of websites that you don't know who's responding to them. You don't know if the person even knows the market. Are they just buying leads? Are they scraping and scrubbing? Is it a bot just going around and just putting in a drip campaign?
Even if it's up to date.
I never am sure. And I used to liken it that cooperation is great. We believe in cooperation in the industry and the MLS and put our listings there. And if you have a buyer that you've procured and you want to show my listing and vice versa, the idea of I've got the listings, you're going to set up your whole business. Another company's business model is I'm just going to take leads and get half the commission, but I'm not going to really focus on listings. So I know Howard Hanna never gets the chance to make that commission back. Is how I've always looked at it. And I know people disagree with that, but I've also, my simple aspect is if I have a listing and I put a for sale sign in it on the house across the street, another company wouldn't come and put their for sale sign up and say to the owner, is it okay if I put my for sale sign here because maybe Hoby won't answer the phone as quickly as I would? Like agents would go crazy if that happened, or same with a print ad or a postcard, but digitally because of MLSs. So we have looked for years and said, more and more companies like this, and there's nothing wrong. Those are great companies. Like that's their model. I don't criticize it. I just know our model is to be more centric on the listing and getting the right information to the customer. So we looked at a market like Cleveland, where we are today, where we have a significant listing market share. And we said, would we be better to create a vow to say, we'll share with everybody and we're going to go and get registration. We'll show the Howard Hanna listings. And if you register, you can see the whole MLS. And it's not really to compete with like a Zillow or Realtor.com, because I don't know that brokerage websites can, but can we be stronger than other brokerage websites? With a vow, you can put a lot more detail and data for the consumer to share. With a vow, we have a registration so we know who we're marketing to and how we can go back to them with even cross-section of marketing products, as opposed to a stranger that might have put in an unverified email address. So we can have mortgage products and insurance products and different products that we look at a vow and we can start to develop a customer relationship with a little more detail, with transparency. Here's how much the buyer agency commissions are. Here's the days on market. And so we thought as a lead generator and as an experience would be good. And as we started looking at it over the last couple of years, it's been like a 2-year process of testing this. Once we saw some of these lawsuits that the industry is looking at, where we could be splitting commissions, we've really said, well, how do we create a better experience for our buyers? And why is it that this argument that the buyer, things aren't transparent, and even if there's agency, there's buyer beware. So we said, well, okay, if we're going to try to get more exclusive buyer agency contracts, and we can also give them more data and say, in the data, what we're providing you is everything we see as an agent in the MLS. Everything's transparent, everything's disclosed. We think that might become a better consumer experience. And so we decided to test it in Cleveland. And a lot of people were frustrated and upset about it across the industry. But other people have called me and said, hey, it's a great idea. We're not going to take the risk. We're going to watch and let you tell us how it works. But I will say that it's only been we're about 6 weeks in.
So it doesn't bring you on.
It's brand new. And as of today, we're 6 weeks in. But what we've tracked is that our web traffic across the whole website's up like 22%. So it's been a good whole site. But in Northern Ohio, where we have the vow, we're up like 41% in traffic. So one thing, it has led to traffic. The other thing is that our registration form So you could just go and look at the registration. People would say, oh, nobody will register. Our registrations are up like 600% in Northeast Ohio.
Really?
I mean, because what's happening is people are saying, okay, well, what else is there for me to see?
Yeah.
And I want to see the experience. Now, we are fortunate that like you can go into certain markets and do a search and there might be 30 homes for sale. And it will say there are 30 homes for sale in your search. 17 of them are below, listed with Howard Hanna. If you'd like to see the rest, register here.
Yeah.
And once you register, you see everything. So, it's, and I think that ties back to what you're all
Customer.
doing. I mean,
Customer first, yeah.
tie it back to you guys since you're here, VHT and Matterport. How do we make, we talked about that this morning. How to get richer content? Anybody can put, your product. You can. We all know the Matterport product's great. And you can have that there and have the greater experience. But is it something you're providing because you get more registration? Are you providing because you've got more clients so you can put more dollars at work because of the stickier aspect and the photography tying with it and everything else? And, as you even got some people out there that are making that their new business plan.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely richer media, more engaging.
And we're all about data as well, right, Jay?
Yeah.
So data plays a big role in our everyday life, and we care about it. And
understand who's coming through. It's interesting. I bet you it wasn't your customers that were upset about your virtual office assistant. It's probably
lots of competitors.
It was the competitors that were probably more frustrated with it. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about buyers and sellers. Do they play a role in your agents' everyday life? How they influence them to use the technology and what type of technology?
Yeah, I think they do, and I think I think they do when they know that there's a technology that exists, and they ask for it. And sometimes that comes out of stressful times. I use an example, not just in real estate, but again, COVID recently affecting how we all look at technology.
Right.
I mean, we were a Microsoft Office client, and so I think we were paying for Teams in our pricing and packaging for years. Well, I think our IT department and our facilities department were the only people that used Teams. We would still, the rest of the departments would get together. Like, well, our whole company became proficient, and because we had that as a product and using Teams for meetings and also Zoom and other things. And I think even saying to a customer, okay, well, we can meet via Zoom or Teams. The experience of interacting on a listing today, and even being on a website and share and screen share, the Matterport 3D design, the pictures, the photography, and say, okay, I don't want to go out and look at these 10 houses. Let's discuss this way, and then go look at the 5 homes that I really, after seeing that create value. I think we saw more and more people, even agents who never wanted to use online forms.
Yeah.
They still wanted to write the contract.
Right.
It became forced. Or earnest money companies that were, agents were like, no, I'll just pick up the cash or the check and deposit it. Now we're saying, well, no, why are we doing this? Why are we the only business in the world that doesn't have some form of electronic payment for earnest money and escrow? And I think mortgage and title are already looking at how they create that efficiency across the whole industry. So I think customers will ask for that technology. More and more people use online. And I do think that we hear the customers, they do say, why don't I have this? Now, sometimes it's an education. Sometimes it's because again, you're buying or selling your home on average 7 years. So they don't know what technology is really used. They see something that's well advertised. I often talk about those valves and the portals and the marketing. And sometimes I'm like, and I'll say to a friend or a customer, they're good advertising partners, some of those big portals. They're all great. We work with them. But let me explain their model a little bit, because if you list your house with me and you want me to be the expert that's explaining the value of your home, those companies, they're not getting me the lead.
Right.
So when you list your house, and it's just their model, but you list your house with our friends at Zillow, and we say to sellers, don't call me and ask me how many people have called me from Zillow. And sellers are shocked. Yeah. And they're like, well, why? And they're like, well, they are selling this to buyers agents that are buying the leads. And we'll find a lot of sellers, it's not just Zillow, it's others who will go, I don't like that. Yeah. How do I change that? And they go, we can't, it's their model, but at the same time, they want to be on Zillow because that's the name they know.
Right.
That's the search.
When you get a Saturday Night Live skit made about you've
made it
there, right? So it's but I think that battle becomes like with good partners like you guys. don't know if it's a battle, but it's how do we improve what we're doing as brokers? Because if the customer wants certain things, are they just going there because they know the brand, or is there an experience they're getting?
Right.
And how do we, as with partners like yourself, put that same experience within howardhanna.com?
Right.
So that we can say, well, we do that. And that's one of the things we've done with technology. That's one of the things that we've tried to do with different partners like Real Scout or Percy with their evaluation model, connecting everything. So what we have done is made everything that connects on an open platform. Even if we plug other people, our basic hub platform, we call our H Suite, we can plug anything in, a CRM to a AI product, to a marketing, to a direct mail. So we can open it up as opposed to it being locked.
Yeah.
And that allows us to partner with a lot more folks and begin to see what do the consumers like.
Yeah.
So.
And is that your hub also for agents and brokers?
Yes.
That's your whole suite?
Our whole suite. We call it our H Suite. And so it's everything that an agent or broker would need is there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned artificial intelligence. So how agents, what are they talking about? How do they feel about it? Are they scared? Are they afraid? Are they embracing?
I think it's all over the map right now. And I think it's I don't know that anybody has a direct position. I do think that, as I've said, I think the agent will stay at the involved in the transaction, and I think artificial intelligence can help with valuation, some pricing. We'll see how it affects the mortgage. I think it could have a greater effect in the underwriting in the mortgage business and the efficiency that's there, because that can be a cost-effective business, and it could make that much more efficient to get closings and approvals and quicker, and appraisals and things faster. I think to the agent, I see early adoption of things like ad writing, being a little bit more descriptive.
Right.
I think longer term, from a marketing perspective, I think it could do a lot of creative things that could, you're seeing better more than I, but products and programs that can lay over here's a photo of a kitchen, so give me, if I wanted to remodel this kitchen, what would the estimate of price be, and what would that look like?
Right.
And I think as we get to more 3D, where you can really, and virtual, and you can walk through the idea of a house and a plan.
Right.
Talked to a friend of mine who has a large national building company this weekend, and they're putting a lot of money into this virtual 3D aspect so that they can be online, because they feel that they can get people into a showroom floor, and they have a great point of sale program, and technology's based. But if he feels if he can get them so that their online experience is to really feel and see the house, then it can increase, and that would be good for agents if all these things come to play, so that an agent could be more efficient. There is that. People forget that process today is, okay, I want to go look at houses, I'm going to go touch and feel. And how many homes am I going to look at? How many are available? And we're in a tight inventory market today, right? So there's not as many to look at.
Right.
But in a normal market, you might go into a school district and looking at 10, 15 houses. It's a long day. You can't remember which is which. And how does that help that whole process just to, move things along?
Yeah. We see it kind of on two fronts too, similar to what you're saying, is that from an agent point of view and broker, we see them really leveraging kind of the AI around content generation. Whether it's, I wouldn't say start with a blank slate and let ChatGPT write your property description, but give the basics and then let it come in and fill in the blanks for you, right? Or give more color, or your social media posts, and so helping with content.
Well, I think that'll be a big way, because it's that's where agents need the help, and it's time consuming
for them,
and it's time consuming for even we have a full I think 80-person marketing department. It's time consuming for them because of all the different projects that they're working on. And so if that technology can allow,
But it's so easy to get carried away and just copy and paste. And it's a terrible thing. Actually, Google can track that you are copy paste the ChatGPT, and it will harm your ad.
Well, it's similar on what you were saying about the 3D too, as we had recently announced here our generative AI, which, like, once we turn this room into data, we know the dimensions, the size, the height, the width, the type of material, everything about this table, that fixture there with the flowers, and you can then imagine this room not decorated in, say, modern farmhouse or mid-century modern.
Exactly.
Right? And from an agent point of view, a lot of people aren't visual, and so they go into a home and they're like, "Boy, that's that's kind of an ugly house. And we're like, yeah, but imagine if it looked like this. And once you turn the house into data, you then can actually see it.
No, I
as
think
if you'd imagine it.
that's exciting, especially in some of those storms that are coming. I mean, we take the sort of macroeconomics of the world we're in. We all know we've got an inventory issue, and we've got an affordability issue, no matter where we are. Then coupled with old housing stock and a population that isn't growing right now. So when you look and whether it's lenders or whether it's developers or whether it's builders saying how much more product do I put out there? Where's the risk reward on it? And then we've got a lot of housing stock that is mid-century and older that people have a really hard time envisioning. What could that look like? And you do get to that point if you've got the dimensions and you can see it, not just somebody showing, well, I could make it look like this. You can see it and then even get to the point of really with virtual reality, being able to walk around it before. It could help home builders. It could help some of that older housing stock get a greater value. It could help even sellers say, well, how much more, if I put that renovation in because it's what somebody wants today, how much more money could I potentially sell my house for if I made that investment? Because is the psychology of the buyer today, I don't want to put the sweat equity and time in. I want what I want now. So I think that's one area that could really help us because we know all those things are true. Like by gut, we know today a real estate agent can walk in a house and tell you if you put this design of a kitchen into this older home, you open this wall, make it more contemporary, we'll get you more money. But it's that confidence, first of the agent to say, well, what substantiates that confidence other than my gut? And it's not my money I'm spending.
Right.
And two, that seller is sitting in the house going, really? But I'm leaving. And you want me to upgrade the kitchen, and this is where I raised my kids, and I lived, and 30 years ago, this was the best kitchen in town. and so if you could visualize that and give people confidence, that could really help what I think could be a challenging housing, not a crisis, just a affordability issue and a marketability issue. So I love that that's
they're not building as well. New home sales are up now because interest rates, and the tight inventory in the existing homes. But it's hard to imagine if I blow out this wall right here, what would this look like? Is it really worth $15,000 to me to put into it versus just?
And most people don't have that vision.
No, they can't visualize it. So.
Well, I have a question to both of you. If you have 1,000 employees or you have 15,000 agents throughout the country, how do you empower them to be better, and how do you inspire them to build the best career in the world and feel good about themselves? So let's start with you, Jay.
I've always been a big fan, similar, of servant leadership. But I think the big part of the leadership side is challenging people to go places they wouldn't go on their own. And so setting those stretch goals for each individual and then really leaving it up to them. If they're the CEO of Cleveland, for Howard Hanna, or they're the CEO of a tech company, set the goals and set stretch goals, but then leave it to them, empower them to figure out how to get there and figure out how to achieve them. And then my goal is just to help them get there faster, right? Help them be there, support them to get to those stretch goals. Because once they see they can do it, then that stretch goal is no longer a stretch goal. That just becomes the milestone to the next big goal. And so it's part of that, setting that audacious goal for them, but then being there knowing, you can support them to get there. Give them that confidence that they have the power and the confidence and the capability to go do something even bigger. And so that bigger always helps them get to that next career move. And I've always been a big fan. It's not, I always encourage people to look around, similar, like we're all going to outgrow every company at some point, right? So don't feel like, if there's bigger aspirations from a career standpoint, I'm also a big fan of, supporting individuals no matter where they may go in their career, whether it's within Matterport in this particular situation or a career opportunity outside of Matterport too. Just seeing the personal growth is more important to me.
Well, that's actually very rewarding. You just help that person to grow into a new position, even if it's not your company, if it's not the company you are in, but you help them grow themselves. That is very rewarding.
When we talk career growth, yes. When we talk company growth, of course, I do everything I can to help them grow within the company. But yes, so
I think that's fair. That's great.
What about you?
I think there's a couple things. I think one, it's I think you have to start if you see yourself as a leader within a company, you have to come every day with enthusiasm and pride in what you do. And we talk about that all the time within the company, is that, and I ask myself every day, did I exude 110% of pride and enthusiasm in being part of Howard Hanna today and what I'm doing. Because if it doesn't start there, like then when this industry is challenging enough, and it's emotional, it can be emotional, and it's transactional, and it's I always it's that highly complex transaction that's done very infrequently with the consumer. So we do it every day, but we can get frustrated why you don't understand. And so if we don't bring that pride and enthusiasm, how do we expect anybody else to as they look to grow? I think that's one aspect. I do agree on the aspect of I think it's setting goals, and I think it's and I hope we do a good job of this. Is even if we have a goal, it's saying to the team that surrounded us, here's what we should be doing, and then let them go do it. You know, if it's where I find it a lot with entrepreneurs as they're growing a business, is they are so hard driven as the entrepreneur. Not only are they saying this is what our goal is for their whole team, then they've got the plan and they've got the detail. And as soon as that entrepreneur steps away from that, they've developed a whole team that says, well, no, Hoby was supposed to tell us what to do next. So I'd rather say to my team, here's my vision of what you can do. And even if they don't have that BHAG goal, saying that's a great goal and I will do everything I can to help you achieve it, but couldn't we do more? And if they don't have that mindset, it's like, well, how do I do more? And I said, you know what, you've got a great plan here. I can help you, but I want you to figure out how to do more. Because that will be rewarding for them. If they think they have the ability and the entrepreneurship and act as their own owner to make that decision happen. If they're just waiting for somebody in your position or my position to tell them, well, here's what you do next. You know, then they probably, career path or not, they're not going to emerge.
They're not.
You know?
No.
Then you just got worker bees and you don't have people making decisions and you don't have new ideas.
They don't feel like they own the plan either.
You see, one of my goals was to interview you, and Jay's supporting me, and he flew all the way from Dallas, and regardless of his busy schedule. So thank you both. Actually,
thank you.
I would like to ask a question about what would you wish to a younger realtor or someone who wants to get into a technology company, and how would you like to support them, and how do you see yourself, like, if you can go back 20 years, what would you do differently or the same? Let's start with you.
That's a good question. Well, I think if you're coming into the real estate business and you're new and you're young, which I did, I think this is an industry of so many great mentors. But if you study, and this is the business I know, so maybe this is the case everywhere, it's basics. It's basic blocking and tackling. So I oftentimes find people come in and I think we have an incredible education department that wants you to grow your career. It's not a training department, it's a business development and education growth department because they're looking at how you're going to grow your career. And when you come in, we spend so much time saying, this is what's tried and true, this is what works, and follow the plan. And you'll find the niche that's best for you. But I find so many people that decide what all this knowledge that we have, they're going to do it differently. And then they don't succeed because there is a lot of turnover in our industry. And I find that people that just come in and sometimes they don't have to be the most dynamic or smartest or best dressed or it doesn't matter. They come in and say, I'm going to follow that plan. And all of a sudden they take off and they build confidence. And then they start to build their own plan on top of it and have great success. So that's the first thing that I would say is do that. The second is, I think, again, it goes back to what we were saying before. It's involvement. It's be your own owner. Even as an agent and a real estate agent, you're affiliated with Howard Hanna. You're partnered with us, but you're an independent contractor that's making commission. But so have your business plan, but then totally immerse yourself in our company. In fact, I'd say that's probably true anywhere. If you're at another brand and you start there, immerse yourself in that brand, make it your career, grow with that company, because especially if they've been around for a while, there's a reason. And I find that our best salespeople or even our best career people that go from sales to management to running a whole market for us, they dove in. They said, I'm going to be part of this. I chose this brand because they're going to support me, because it has value. I'm proud of it. I'm enthusiastic to represent it. And buy into that. Don't just look at it as a stepping stone or a job and I'm going to go to the next job, because job hopping doesn't work so well in this
Mm-hmm.
in this business.
Yeah, no, it's all big relationships too, and your own personal equity. Yeah, I would say it was interesting. So my son, he's 24, and he was graduating high school a few years ago, and he asked me a similar question. He said, "Dad, what makes people successful?" And I was like,
Good kid.
that's a good question, Daryl.
Insightful.
It's a good question for a senior in high school.
Yeah.
He was getting ready to have to go to college, and I said, well, you got to figure out how to 2x your time. I said, we're all equal in this world. We all only have 24 hours in a day. And so I said, successful people often tends to spend their spare time doing things that are making them successful. And I said, you got to figure out how to 2x your time. And I'm like, if I had that ability, because I was a gung-ho pilot. I was an aviation major, was my undergrad. And I was going to be a pilot. And I was so set on this 10-year goal of being a captain for, commercial airline. And if I look back now, I have my 2X theory, how do you 2X your time, which is kind of set, especially early in your career. That's why I said, set like 2-year goals, set 2-year increments. Like people that say 5 years out, 10 years out. When you're 23, 24 years old, starting your career, it's hard to think that far out because you don't know what you don't know. But set a goal that's like 2 years out. And then do what Nana told us. My grandmother, Northeastern Pennsylvania, Wilkes-Barre Scranton, always said, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you talk. And so I said, figure out what those 2-year goals are, where you want to be in 2 years, and then go seek 2 people that you know that have done that already, and go talk to them. Buy them coffee, buy them lunch, get to know them, what made them successful, how'd they hit that goal that you want to go hit in 2 years, and can you learn from them? And to your point, everybody is different. Can you get there in half the time by doing and learning from others and adding that to your own recipe, right? So that was my theory to him, as far as if I could go back, I'd figure out how I could 2x my time and be a little more productive as a 24, 25, 26-year-old versus doing it the way I did it, all the way through the years. But there's so much to learn out there.
That's great advice.
So much to learn out there with so many people who have done it before. So I still have 4 mentors of my own that I meet with on a quarterly, regular basis, and just sit down and pick their ears, things about family and career and all sorts of stuff. So,
Well, that is great advice. I'm going to take that advice too, and I'm not 24.
Yes, I agree. That is good advice.
it's been 6 or 7 years since we've been 24. It was a while ago.
Yeah, quite a few. Well, I just wanted to thank both of you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Hoby.
Thank you, Lucy.
Jay, for flying in.
Thank
and
you, Hoby.
for
Oh, Lucy, this was
supporting
great.
me.
Thank you, Jeff.
Always.
Thank you. This was
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everybody.
Yeah.